Welcome to the fifth element, empowering healing through biodigital implantology. 2,400 years ago in ancient Sicily, a philosopher named Empedocles first spoke of the four roots of all things. Fire, water, air, and earth. Not just elements, but eternal forces. And 2,000 years later, there was a famous alchemist called Paracelsus. We all know this guy for his famous principle, all things are poisoned, but the dose alone makes the poison. He said that man is made of the four elements, and he heals when they are in harmony. He meant that healing is a symphony of elemental forces. And in implantology, we have our special forces, our own elements, such as bone, titanium, blood, and steel. And today we live in a world where innovation no longer walks, but runs. And for decades in implantology, we have relied on our classical four elements. But what if they are no longer enough? So welcome to the age of biodigital implantology, and welcome to the fifth element, because placing an implant is not just about metal and mechanics. It's about creating conditions for something far, far greater, a new force, a force that's not found in nature, but born of our endless passion, driven by a full modern digital workflow, fused with true and real beauty, creating space for nature to work at its best, and a force that gets all of this united in true and natural beauty. So welcome to that force I call biodigital implantology, a fusion of nature and technology, and a philosophy aimed at being best prepared for whatever may come, to minimize the risk of failure and to move as close as possible to success. Because in my eyes, you cannot find a failure with a slightly better implant or a surface or a connection. You can fight failure with a better system, an operating healing system. But let's start. Let me take you behind the scenes of my daily work. Every patient who is undergoing implant consultation is first digitally captured with photos, intraoral scan, CBCT, and most recently we also incorporated a face scan into our digital workflow. But all of this data is quite useless if you don't put them into a matching or into a planning software. Only here we can design our backward planning to define the perfect implant position after having done a digital wax up. And if we have done all of this, we are quite good prepared. We are quite well prepared, but hand on heart, are we really best prepared? Just look at this professional ski racer here. Do you think that he is racing the course for the first time when he's standing at the starting gate? Never. In his mind, he skied it dozens, maybe hundreds of times. He knows exactly when the snow turns icy, when he has to jump or when he has to hold the line. And this is exactly what I do in biodigital implantology. I know the bone, the nerves, even the soft tissue long before I use my scalpel, and nothing is left for chance. And I'm doing this by digitizing the patient as realistically as possible by creating a digital avatar, where we can visualize and extract every decisive segment. It's a special pre-surgical preparation called deep learning, a practice already used in other fields of surgery to ensure success, as demonstrated, for example, by Hewitt colleagues in 2025. But all of this digital stuff, at the end, we face the problem that there will be a real patient, the great unknown, because we have no idea about his immune system. We have no idea about his ability to regenerate and heal. We have no idea about his vitamin and mineral balance, what is so important for effective healing. And at the end, this patient holds the power to undo everything. Therefore, every single patient receives a pre and a post surgical recommendation of vitamins and minerals, such as vitamin D and K, such as vitamin C, magnesia, calcium, omega-3 fatty acids, and so on, that the body has enough substrate to accomplish what he has now to deal with, to heal quickly and effective. And this preparation is my macrocosmos. But what about our microcosmos? What about the preparation of our wound side, our daily battlefield? And the next slide shows all the magic. Sure, you would say it's sticky bone, right? Yeah, but for me, it is so much more. For me, it is enormous biological potential and enormous biological power. Yeah, this is the point where biodigital becomes bioactive. Yeah, and the magic of the sticky bone lies in its high concentration of its growth factors. Yeah, and these guys are so important for success in wound healing because we know they play a central role in cell regulation, cell growth, cell migration, yeah, and they play a key role by coordinating the various stages of the healing process. Yeah? And we know traditional healing is a cascade of hope. Yeah? One cascade after the other, and it takes time. But what if we could guide this process? What if we could accelerate this process and make each phase more efficient? Yeah? And you know what? Working with PRF makes it possible. Yeah? With PRF, with the patient's own powerful cells, we can guide all the cascades to the point zero, yeah? And new tissue formation can start after 5 days, not just after 2 weeks. And this is really great. This is awesome. Yeah? And in 2022, Gennady and colleagues published a very insightful and a very interesting study that demonstrates all the benefits and the overwhelming impact of PRF and growth factors considering wound healing and bone regeneration. Yeah? How they promote and accelerate all these important processes. We need to engineer healing. Yes, to engineer healing by ending up in angiogenesis and in osteoblast. So for me, PRF is not just a tool. For me, it is a real game changer. Yeah? In my eyes, PRF is some kind of an intelligent biomaterial, yeah? Because it empowers us to transform lifeless materials like surfaces, like membranes, like grafts, yeah? into living bioactivated with the patient's own powerful cells. So on the whole, you can say working with PRF means prolonged release of growth factors, reduce pain and reduce swelling, faster wound healing, and faster soft and hard tissue regeneration. And it was proved by Gennady, as I told you, and proven by hundreds of other high-class quality studies. But let's stop talking about healing. Yeah, let's start showing it. Yeah, by going into the case, we have here Sophia, 40 years young female patient, non-smoker, non-relevant medical history. She got, as I told you, nutritional supplementation like vitamin D and K, magnesium, calcium, omega-3 fatty acids, and so on. And here we have the clinical situation with a 20 years old clinical insufficient bridge restoration with presenting secondary caries as well as ceramic fractures. But let's go into deep learning. Yeah? This is the patient's avatar. You see here with all the important structures segmented and colorized. Yeah? And the greatest advantage is we can simulate the tooth extraction and perfectly see the alveolar bone by digitally removing the whole gingiva. Yeah? And on the other hand, we have a segmented gingiva mask, as you can see here, where we can really evaluate the soft tissue situation without the teeth. Yeah? You see, it is so much more information than just a single CBCT. Yeah? I know perfectly what is under the mucosa without using a scalpel. And as you can imagine, removing the clinical bridge itself was not the big challenge. Yeah? The big challenge was the removal of the remaining carious destroyed root remnants. Yeah? And in such cases, I use the smallest round burr available on the market, and I perform a targeted osteotomy of the dental hard tissue. Yeah? The dental hard tissue rather than the bone. Yeah? And mostly important, without detaching the periosteum at any point of time. Yeah? And as you can see here, the result, yeah, in my eyes, this is the most demanding step when we're talking about immediate implantation, yeah, the truly atraumatic extraction of the teeth, yeah, because after this, yeah, the next step is the phase we have precisely planned and pre-planned in our AutoGate software in advance, yeah, defining the ideal 3D position of our implant after having done a digital wax up. Yeah? And this correct 3D position is so important for long-term success in implantology, as demonstrated, for example, by Jiujin Su in 2014 already. Yeah? So, and after following our defined R2Gate drilling protocol, the next step is the transmission of our pre-planned 3D position. But before we come to the insertion of our implants, we reach a key element of my biodigital workflow, the biologization and bioactivation of our implant surface with liquid PRF. This so-called coating has been proven, especially in the early healing phase, to accelerate implant stability and osseointegration, what is so important for immediate implantation. And now, in former days, they said, okay, let it fill with blood, there will be bone, no problem. But today we know it much better. Today we know that we get no stabilization of our socket, supported by numerous studies, without filling the socket immediately. And therefore, I use my highly bioactivated sticky bone. I call it sticky filling, and I pack it deep into the sockets. And after the sticky filling, there comes another key component of my biodigital workflow into play, the biological sealing of the grafted site. I cover the sticky bone with a layer of a solid PRF membrane. I call it my biocover. And this membrane acts as a natural fibrin barrier, promoting angiogenesis, protecting the graft from microbial invasion, and enhancing the early phase of the soft tissue healing. So, finally, there's another incredibly important point when we are talking preserving natural contours. Today we know that we cannot achieve a stabilization of our soft tissue without supporting the soft tissue by immediately loading it, the so-called socket seal. And therefore, in anterior region, I use a pre-designed and a pre-planned provisional. And in posterior region, we have several possibilities for the socket seal, like a chair-side constructed individual healing abutment, for example, or a pre-designed individual healing abutment by my dental technician. Both great and perfect fitting solutions, but however, one option is very time consuming and the other one is very expensive. Therefore, I often use Megagen's individual anatomical healing abutments. They are perfect fitting, they are fast, and they are economic. And in Germany, we have a saying, for every pot, you will find a matching lid. And finally, the post-surgery X-ray shows all the implants placed as planned. And thanks to our PRF protocol, we have just 1 week later already very nice soft tissue conditions. And above all, the patient had no pain, no swelling, and was highly satisfied. And after just 4 weeks later, we have absolute stable, irritation-free gingival architecture, as well as 4 months later, absolutely no loss of hard and soft tissue. And as you can see here, after 4 months, I believe any prosthodontics and dental technician will appreciate this emergency profile. This is a condition you can truly work with. And with this clinical situation, the patient is handed back to the referring general dentist for further prosthetic rehabilitation. And fortunately, Sophia came back 1 year later for the 1 year follow-up, where we could see really excellent hard and soft tissue conditions, with no atrophy, no undercuts, no plaque triangles that could promote food impaction and peri-implantitis. And after 2 years, we see what super polished zirconia is really capable of. We see an even more pronounced, healthy, marginal gingiva, absolute stable conditions. And this is, for me, really simply stable, natural, beautiful outcome. Engineered by digital precision and biological intelligence. And radiography, we can also see excellent stability after 2 years, with the clear evidence of a remodeling process. The initial porous sticky bone in the cervical area granulates step by step into dense cortical stable structures, extending directly up to the implant shoulder. Right, I have to come to the end, and after everything I've just shared with you, my only wish is that you leave this lecture with just one single question in mind, just one single question. How would you decide? How would you act if this wouldn't be any patient on the screen? How would you decide if it was you or someone you love? Would you really leave anything for chance? Or wouldn't you simulate the surgery by building up a perfect digital avatar? See every risk before it happens. Choose the perfect position for your implant, and then wouldn't you transfer it into reality, fully guided, no compromises? And it was your own body. Wouldn't you strengthen it before the operation? Feed it with what it needs to heal. Wouldn't you use your own growth factors, your own blood, your biology to accelerate healing and reduce pain, reduce swelling? Because at the end, the fifth element is not just technology. At the end, the fifth element is not just biology. At the end, the fifth element is you. So welcome to the fifth element in biodigital implantology, and thank you so much for your valued attention.